Hello everyone, it's Shanna. Today we're going to be using the Perfect Pie Maker die set, and I'll also bring in the Perfect Pie Maker add-ons. I'm using this Woodland Tells paper from Spellbinders, and I'm going to be making a Z-fold card. So I've got my score buddy here. I'm scoring at 4 1/4, and then I'm flipping it over and I'm scoring at 2 1/8 for my Z-fold, and that way I'll have them going in the right direction, and I'm going to give it a good press. Now today we're working with the wacky elements of Craft Roulette, and we have to make a Z-fold. We have to use scarecrow colors, and we have to use bake as an element, and we have to use crinkle inkle. And that is a element that Mary made up, and I'm going to show it to you here in a little bit. So I've got this Spellbinders paper, the Woodland Tells, and I'm going to cut a strip to layer on my Z fold there, and I'm just trying to figure it out because I know that it's 2 1/8, so I'm using my little notches there on my trimmer to get it to where I want it to be. So I'll get this piece I'll cut down, and we'll get it laid down here on our card base. So I immediately thought about the pie, because when I think of baking, I immediately thought about the pie die, and that is from Cat Scrappiness. And so I knew I wanted to do that, and it was the scarecrow colors is not a big deal because, you've got the color of the straw, which I'm using my Dune cardstock for that. And then, you have the birds that the scarecrow's trying to fly or, scare off. And then you have whatever is planted in the fields or the flowers or whatever you're trying to protect with your scarecrow. So you can just about bring in any color, I think, with that. I've got some blue here, so if my scarecrow is wearing some jeans, he might also be wearing a plaid shirt that has green on it or whatever. Anyway, so to meet that element of the will is not a big deal because, in my opinion, you can pull in lots of colors, the colors of the sky that are around the scarecrow. So I'm putting both pieces of paper on both my inside and my outside, and I'll have to lay some cardstock down on top of that so that I'll have a place to put for me to put my sentiment and for me to write on my card. Now I'm just bringing in the top facing pie. There's also a piece of pie. There is a side facing pie with the pie plate and that you can do. There's lots of options with this particular set. I'll link it in the description box below so that if you're interested in it, it's really a fun set. And I'm just cutting this burgundy paper down because I know that I want it to be my outside panel that I'm going to attach to my Z-fold. And so I was straightening it up, and I only had one piece of this cardstock left, and I wanted to make sure I could make the most of it. It came in a pack of holiday colors from Spellbinders, and I've used all of it but this, and I had to use it sparingly so that I could have both my panel and the inside of my cherry pie cut out of that. So this is I'm cutting this Dune cardstock down here, same thing, making the most of it, and I'm going to use my Scout, and I can't use a full A2 size panel on my Scout, so I cut it down to where it would fit. And I laid this down at the top, and then I realized I wanted to make a single pass on all these. So I just scooted this down since I've got that extra cardstock, and I'm going to lay these two on here, and we'll just die cut all three things out at once. And then we'll have the elements for our pie. And I've got my Christmas pajamas on. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning. It's Saturday morning after the Craft Roulette aired last night. I actually went to bed really early. And well, I'm not real early. I mean, I watched the whole Craft Roulette show, and then I went to bed, and I woke up early because I'm on this early schedule watching the boys, and so my body's just programmed to get up early, and so I woke up at 5 a.m. So I'm just taking my 2-in-1 tool and popping out all these little pieces of crust here that I don't need, and this is how it layers up, and it lays right on there. Now this is where I'm going to do the crinkle inkle technique, and I've got my ground espresso here and a bag. This is Mary's little trick. You just take some plastic and then dip it in your ink and then dot it down on your paper. Now you probably won't see this much on the camera, but it did add some ink to it and kind of gave it a little bit of texture. And, you know, my cherries would be different colors, and there would be some shadowing. So it seemed like the perfect place to use that weird technique that I wouldn't normally use on anything. So I used it on here. And now I'm just blending. I've got my Vintage Photo blending brush that had some of that on there. I didn't add any ink, and I'm just adding, you know, just browning up my pie crust here. And I'm going to do it on my lattice as well. And then we'll just start assembling our little pie pieces. And I'm just putting thin strips of glue on there, and I dropped it, but fortunately it landed glue side up, so I didn't make a mess on my glass mat there. And just getting it laid down and kind of cleaning up any glue that has squished through. And now we'll get our decorative element of our pie laid down on there. This is where you do your little ripple effect on your pie dough. And I didn't do a very good job of lining it up. I thought it would line up perfectly, and I kind of kept moving it around because I thought, well, maybe you have to have it in a certain exact spot, but I don't know what my problem was. I will, off camera, trim it up a little bit because it just bothered me. But it actually turns out just fine for the card. And here I'm still fussing with it, trying to get it exactly lined up. And I thought, well, I'll just darken the edges that are showing that weren't dark on there. And so that's what I'm doing, just adding a little bit more blending to it. And then I've got my, I don't know, burgundy or wine-colored panel here, and I'm going to layer it up with this brown. I think, I'm debating. I spend a little bit of time trying to decide if I want to use this or if I want to use the Dune cardstock. But ultimately, I will wind up layering the brown on there because I've got that brown in that Woodland Tells, and it just kind of brings that color back into it. So I'm just fiddling with it. I actually brought some Dune out and looked at it, but I decided to just go ahead and go with the brown. And so I just cut that portion out because the video is long enough as it is. And here I'm just measuring that wine-colored panel so that I can cut this brown panel down to the appropriate layering measurements. And then I will wind up cutting it down again because I decide that it is, it's really just too big for my, it doesn't show enough of the pattern paper, I guess, is what I decided. And so I'm fiddling with it and trying to decide, am I going to leave it this width or what? But, and laying my little focal point on there and trying to determine what I'm going to do with the panels. So bring the trimmer in, get them cut down. Now, this card, I first really just had in mind that pie that I was going to add it. And it actually, this card evolves as we go. I didn't have these other elements in mind, but I'll just start pulling in other elements and adding them as I go. I've got the die sets above my glass mat there, and I'm looking at them as I go, and I just start pulling in other elements and adding it to my card. I didn't really have a plan. It just was evolving as I went along. And I'll do that with these panels here as well. I'm getting them laid down on there, and I was thinking, gosh, that's kind of plain. And I'm putting my dies back, and I've decided that I'm going to bring in this cherry element here and kind of doctor up the pie so that it looks a little bit more interesting. And so I'm also looking to see, is there anything else I want to use? So I'm just going to bring in my Scout again, and I'm going to die cut these cherries out in this wine color. And so we'll get them die cut out. And then there's some leaves on there. There's one individual leaf and then one that's attached. And I think the individual one is so that you can add a different color to it. And so I'm actually going to grab some of that Woodland Tales paper that has the green on there and just use that green for the cherry leaf. And then, the green will match my pattern paper that I have there. The rest of my greens that I had in cardstock were kind of bright, and this is more of a natural or subdued colors. So I'm trying to get that to just pop out, but the paper's kind of stuck in there. So I just used my 2-in-1 to pop it out, and I'm going to get it laid down on my little leaf. I started to grab the wine-colored one, and I was like, I don't want that. I want the colored one. So I'm just going to take that little leaf and lay it down on there. And I'm going to get it laid down on my pie. It had a little piece of paper there, like a little die cut piece. I was trying to get it off of there. Sometimes you have those little fine pieces of paper when you run it through the die cutting machine. And we'll just lay it down in the center of our pie. And they'll clearly know it's a cherry pie now, because we've got the cherries on top. Now, this is where I'm thinking that the panel looks a little bit plain, and I'm going to bring in my pie server. And this pie server, I could not decide what color I was going to use for this. I die cut it out in brown and dune and even gold. I cut the gold part out because I wind up using the brown, and I decide to go with the brown. So I bring my Scout back in again. I'm going to bring that thing in and out because I just keep adding elements as I go. Like I said, I really didn't have a plan. It just kept coming to me. So we'll get our little pie server die cut out in the brown. And the other two colors, I just cut that out just to save video on the time on the video. So I've got my elements there, and I'm still looking at it thinking, I could add more to it. I could make it look better. And then I think I'm going to emboss this panel. And so I'm just going to bring in the checkered argyle embossing folder from Spellbinders and emboss this panel, both layers together. And I loved it. It added some great interest to the panel, and so now I'm happy with it. And I'm going to lay my little pie server down there. This is where I cut out the footage of me die cutting out the other two colors of the pie server. And now I'm just going to pop up my pie and just give it a little dimension. So it's been kind of just a relaxing weekend so far. Pat's away out of town he's got a meet that he officiates. And so last night I had to go I'm the treasurer at the church and I had to go do my work. So I did that right after the kids left. And then I ordered a pizza from Pizza Hut. And I waited to order the pizza until I was done with my work. And I should have ordered it before because it took forever to get ready. The app told me 35 minutes and I was done and I thought, oh, I didn't want to go home and then go back out. And I thought, well, I could sit there at the church roulette. And I was like, no. So I ran to my sister's house and sat with her for a few minutes and visited with her. And then I went to get the pizza. The app said that it was ready. And when I got there, she told me it was going to be 15 more minutes. So I had to sit outside the Pizza Hut and wait for them to get it finished so they could bring it in. We just have one of those real small Pizza Huts where you don't go inside. It's just delivery. So I sat out there in the car watching the start of Craft Roulette, waiting for my pizza, starving. And so then it finally came out and got home and had the pizza and watched Craft Roulette and just had a relaxing night. And I really don't have any plans for this weekend, for the rest of the weekend as well. So, okay, back to the card. So I got my panel laid down on there and I've got my spatula on there. And I know that I need a place to be able to put a sentiment and to write on it. And so I'm going to bring some more of that Dune cardstock in, and I'm going to cut it down to the same size panel as I've got the front of my card there, so that I can tuck it in behind that panel, and you won't see it when the card is closed. So I'm just going to make sure I cut it right. We'll throw some glue down on there and tuck it in. So anyway, Pat will be home this afternoon, and who knows, he may want to do something. I think there might be some shopping that he want to do. Now, there was a little speck on here. I don't know if it, where it came from or whatever, and I tried to erase it off, and it wouldn't erase off. So this prompted me to bring in some more of the Perfect Pie Maker add-ons, and I'm going to bring in the fork and the knife. And like I said, these elements just keep evolving as the video goes on. And I'm going to just use that brown cardstock again and die cut them out and just kind of keep all of our colors the same. And these dies, it was like they were magnetized. The fork kept going back into the knife, and I had to fiddle with it because it just kept drawing it in. I've not had that happen before with them. I thought that was kind of amusing. But so now we've got our little fork and our little knife, and that will cover up that little speck that's on that panel. And then I was like, what am I going to do with a card that has a pie server and a fork and a knife on it? And then I remembered I'm going to a little birthday celebration at the church, and we usually will have a pie or cake or something like that for the birthday celebrations. And for this particular one, there's actually going to be cheesecake, so this doesn't match. But I think the card's cute, and so I've decided I'm going to use it for a birthday card. Now, this person that's getting this card is a crafter, so I think she will appreciate it, appreciate the detail in it. And so I'm going to make it a birthday card. And so I'll go digging for a sentiment, and I should have put it on there before I assembled the card, because I've got some layers going on here, and I wasn't certain how well it would stamp down with that popped up pie on the other side. But I'm going to bring in, and this is a Gina K. It's like a birthday sentiment. But it's a stamp set that has flowers on it. And I didn't have the backer sheet that had the name on it with it, so I don't know what the name of the stamp set is. I can try to look for it and link it in the description box below, but it says, wishing you a happy birthday. And so I'm going to bring in my Nocturne Versifine Clair ink and get it pressed down. And I'll do a couple pressings on it. And I'm pushing pretty hard because of the dimension that's on that other panel. But I think it turned out really nice. I think it's going to be a nice birthday card, and I think she'll appreciate it. Sometimes the Craft Roulette cards, I'm like, what am I going to do with these cards? Because sometimes they're weird. But I've kind of learned to just really take some liberties with the parameters for the Craft Roulette cards so that I can make them something that are useful. So anyway, here's my finished card. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.